For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hope your summer is going swimmingly and you're surviving the heat. Now, last week on the show, I was talking about it being my 25th high school graduation anniversary, if you want to call it that. And I don't remember if I mentioned to you that I wasn't sure if there was a reunion that anybody was planning or whatever. Turns out, I found out after the fact, which is kind of what I expected, that there was a get-together, but just with a couple of the smaller groups of people, but largely everybody's lost touch. So I wanted to give you that update, though, just because on the show I was talking about how, I wonder if anybody's organizing something, but everybody seems so consumed with their lives that, it's a big undertaking, and it would probably just be something mentioned on Facebook. Sure as shit, it was one of those things where they created a group, the class of whatever, from whatever school, we're getting together at such and such a restaurant or bar or whatever it was, but nothing formal. I missed it anyway, no big deal. But something that I did after, which it was really cool and fun, and I want to tell you about it, was in that show I was describing to you how I had my camcorder at the graduation, like the dinner and dance at the reception after, and I the big clunky one from back in the day. And I knew that I still had the camera and I still had tapes. Now I had a shit ton of tapes because, especially as a teenager and me who was into broadcasting or whatever and news, I was, videotaping everything. Well, I had them labeled as well because I was a journalist. I was an aspiring journalist. And so I literally had everything labeled, and I had things time stamped as well, so that it was kind of all right, from this point on the tape to this point is whatever, this point is this. And so I found my graduation tape, and when I did, I made I don't know if it was a squeal or what kind of a sound, but my husband across the house was like, "What just happened?" Almost like I just saw a mouse. That sound that people when they are ew, it was that, but it was a good squeal that I did. Now, I've talked about my husband is from Brazil, and so their culture when it comes to graduation, back then, he's 38, but was very different than what a Canadian graduation would be. And remember, in the U.S., it's called a prom. For us, it was called a graduation. And so I'd said to him, "Oh my God, I found the tape for my graduation." So what was interesting was see, when you have a camcorder that's that old, we had to find the cables. Now, I own a media company. We do broadcasts, so we've got equipment for radio, TV, whatever. But do we have, the actual cables that will go into a newer TV? Well, we do. So, and I don't know how to do it. So we had one of our techie guys come to my house, connect the cables. It's the red and the white and the yellow or whatever it was, and goes to the back of the TV. And I said to my husband, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get a bunch of the songs that were part of my graduation. So you remember I'd said it's going to be Me by NSYNC. We had Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again. We had Vitamin C Graduation. And those are songs that my husband, I don't know that he knew Vitamin C, but he knew Backstreet or NSYNC, Backstreet and Britney. And I said, we're going to basically... we're going to watch the video, and then we're going to go and dance with, the dogs. We're going to go to the basement and get a bunch of lights and do kind of a reenactment. We were going to dance along to these songs again and just have a really good time. So we watched the video, and this is the thing. It was interesting for him to see what teenagers in Canada were doing back then. But at the same time is he doesn't have those memories from the event like I do, right? It's like when somebody comes back from a vacation, you remember that, they'd scroll through or they would flip through a million pictures and you're kind of like, oh my God, when is this over? Like, I don't care. I wasn't there. So it doesn't mean something to the person that you're showing, but I kind of felt that way, because he doesn't know these people, and it's just me telling stories, right? Oh, she was da 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 da. Oh, he was da 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 da. Or such and such and such, and da da da. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine. It would be different if I was watching it with my former classmates. That would have been cool, right? A bunch of us get together. So we watch the video. He doesn't find the things funny because he wasn't part of the joke or whatever it was with our group. And then we had snacks. We kind of basically like catered the graduation dinner. We had like a meat platter kind of a thing. There was cheese. It was very much, it was kind of cool that we did that. And then we went, as I said, we went down to the basement and we danced, and it was just really fun. Like, it kind of took us back to our teenage years. And so he then told me about his graduation, and again, it's different because they were pictures on film, right? So you would flip through them. They weren't digital things. So his mom ended up finding some photo albums, and she took a bunch of pictures of the photo albums. So then, sent them, and then we scrolled them on the TV. So, kind of something similar. And he did the same thing. He told me about, this was my friend so-and-so, and this was, and so it was really kind of cool to sort of relive our graduations. Now, for me, again, it was the 25th, and for him, he graduated 2 or 3 years, or no, I don't remember what he said about, did they go to grade 12? Obviously he's in Brazil, so it was something different. And so it was really kind of fun. Now, one of the other, am I already going too long there? I didn't do a break. Shit. I think that I did that last week too, didn't I? I'm supposed to talk for like a minute and a half, throw to a break, and then get into the stories, and I didn't do that. I was just so excited to tell you what happened that I just went right into it. All right. So we're gonna take a break now, and when we come back, I'll tell you how finding that camcorder and those tapes inspired me to do something really, really fun. And not with my husband. More on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble. So after I reenacted my graduation with my husband, I said to him, I have so many tapes because when I was a teenager, I published a family newsletter. It was every month. And then once I got the video camera, I was basically the official or unofficial photographer and videographer of our family events. So when we had a baby shower, when we had a christening, when we had a wedding, when we had whatever, Christmas, when we had, every event, and my mom's side of the family was super close for every holiday, every birthday, every whatever. So I would then record them, and then I would start to make a little like a newscast kind of a thing with the clips. Very, very amateur. It wasn't anything big. So I find a bunch of these tapes. Now, the interesting thing about my husband watching these is obviously he knows my family. So for him to be able to watch my brother's wedding is kind of cool, right? Or to, he didn't meet my grandpa. My grandpa died about, I don't even know what it was. 13 years ago. My husband's been around for 9 years, so he didn't meet my grandpa. He met my grandma, and somebody else had died. Who else was it? Can't think of it. Oh, it was my dad's sister. So it's not my mom's side of the family, but there was somebody else that he had always heard about but never met, and so it was kind of cool to be able to show him videos from when I was a kid, and he'd heard a bunch of the stories and some of the jokes or the things about her, and so that was kind of cool to be able to put on these videos from more than 20 years ago, 25, almost 30 years ago. And so one of the tapes, or a couple of the tapes, were my friends from the lake. Now, on the last show, I talked about our group, and we would, just make silly videos and things like that. So we had the big New Year's celebration for the year 2000, right? The new millennium. There was a big deal. There was Y2K, right? Remember, where everything's going to shut down, all your money is going to be lost from the bank, there's going to be no power, there's going to be nothing. So I got together with my friends from the lake, and we celebrated the year 2000 together, the ringing in of the new year, and I found the tape of that. Now, what's really funny is some of us have been in touch, and we've been in contact in recent years. So when I had a book signing several years ago, a few of the former friends from the lake all of a sudden showed up at the mall and came to see me at a book signing. But that was one of the sweetest things. I almost could cry now just talking about it because it was really nice. I had not seen them in 15, more than 20 years, I guess. I hadn't seen them, probably almost. And so to see them, they got kids or, they're married or whatever it is. And then a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was with our producer, Suzanne. We were doing a road trip. Where did we go? We were going to a casino north of Winnipeg, and we were out, and we went to the check-in desk where you can sign up for one of their club card kind of things. And so we're standing at the counter, and all of a sudden this woman comes over. She's at the cashier, or not the cashier, but at the customer service person beside us. And Suzanne's filling out the paperwork. I filled out the paperwork, and I'm looking, going, is that Rihanna from the lake? And again, Rihanna, I would recognize her, obviously. I just hadn't seen her in, at that point, probably about 10 years. And so I know the voice, and I was looking, and I'm like, oh my God, she looks almost the same. And so I interrupted, and I just kind of did my JB thing where I was like, I think she's got a gambling problem. And all of a sudden she looks over and she's like, oh my God. So Suzanne had never met Rihanna. They'd never heard of each other. I was like, oh, this is my producer, my employee. The three of us stood at this casino. We were gambling, but we were talking. We stood talking, and then we went to go play. Almost 3 hours. And it was so fun because we did exactly what I was just doing now. We're talking about what it was like as kids, how we had a good time. Suzanne's kids are older now. I guess they're almost in their 30s. Rihanna's, she had just dropped off her son at a birthday party. He's, how old is he? His name is Xander, and he was probably 8, I think. 8 or 9 years old at the time. Anyway, this was a few years ago. And so, it's kind of cool when you run into somebody like that, and then we just sort of messaged back and forth and kept in touch. She was always on my Facebook, which I think is also maybe too how they knew about my book signings back in the day. But again, you just sort of lose touch, right? You're like, okay, well, you're on my friends list and whatever. We don't interact, but you're there, and I see when your kid had lost a tooth or whatever it was. So when I found this tape of 2000 of the New Year, Happy New Year, I messaged her and then a couple of the other people, like her mom. I was, we always had parental supervision out at the lake when we were doing our teenage stuff. So I know her parents very well, and she knows my parents very well. I messaged her and 3 or 4 of the other people, the key people from our group. We had some outsiders, but we had our key group. And I said, you guys, we have to get together, and we have to do a reunion where we watch these videos, because the New Year one, there's just certain things that I remember. We played Twister in the living room at her parents' house. Her brother Chris was in a band, and so downstairs was a drum set and guitars and things like that, and so we had a jam session. Chris, the brother, fell down the stairs, but not like in such a dramatic way. He just kind of stumbled, and I remember watching that part of the clip because I'm coming down the stairs and he was a few feet behind me, and all of a sudden you can hear like a thump thump, and all of a sudden his girlfriend Heather just bursts out laughing, and she's like, oh my god, Chris just fell down the stairs. We watched that over and over again. Fast forward 20 some years, that's one of the key moments. So all these things that I'm just telling you now, the twister, the, you know, this, that, I didn't have to watch the video to remember that. I remember that happened on New Year's. So then when you go and see, you're like, oh my god, it's exactly how I remembered it, because it was just so vivid. It was just so, you know, memorable at that time. So we got together, Rhiannon, Nadine, Heather, Jan, me, 7 of us got together. And I just said, let's just, you know, get together at my place. And I don't normally have people over, so this is a big deal. I entertained one night. And I know that Rhiannon likes amaretto. I was a vodka drinker. Heather was into beer. And her brother Chris was into beer. So I said, whatever, you know, leave it to me. I'll get the, you know, and the same kind of snacks. We always used to have like cheesies and so one of them like sour cream chips, whatever. And I said, I remember these things. I am getting them. And we had such a laugh. And you know what was really cool about it? It was like that. No, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. It was like no time had passed. It was so much fun. And we also went to the Dixie Chicks concert when they were called the Dixie Chicks. I went with Rihanna and her mom, Jan, and then our friend Heather. So the 4 of us went. It was a girls' trip. And I was, again, probably 16 or 17 years old. Dixie Chicks was one of our bands, just like Savage Garden was, Spice Girls, Aqua. Those Matchbox 20 were also the ones that we would listen to all the time. But for some reason, Dixie Chicks, we just loved it. We would harmonize for Wide Open Spaces. When they came to Winnipeg to do a concert, I again have this big clunky camcorder. And sure as shit, we smuggled it into Jan, the mom's, purse. Because again, this was before like metal detectors and all that shit. Like you could easily just, you know, sneak that in. And we were kind of far back in the arena, but there was a pretty decent zoom on this thing. And I basically almost recorded like the entire concert. And so it was really funny because we then, after watching, you know, the video or whatever, I said, oh my god, we got the concert. So we started putting on those old classic tunes. Now, we went outside to our backyard. We have a fire pit that we don't really use very often. And it was just, when I say like it was just like old times, that's what we would do out the lake. We would sit around the fire at night. We would laugh, you know, if somebody had a guitar or, you know, whatever it would do. Maybe we would just randomly sing. And it was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm a teenager again. So as I'm approaching 43 years old, I'm sitting here going, I feel 16 again. I feel 16. It was cool. It was a super late night. One of the rules was like no kids, no husbands, like none of that stuff. It's just our group because again, they're not going to remember, they don't have those inside jokes like we do. So they probably wouldn't have fun, right? And they can watch your kids then. They don't have to come. But it was so cool. And the funny thing was, this is what's going to end up happening, right? You always do that. Oh my God, we've got to do this again. You know, we're not going to, right? For the next like 10, 15 fucking years. We're not. And I've said that to so many times to people where like, oh my God, it was so nice seeing you. My accountant, Raylene, I've known her for like 20 years. We see each other all the time, like at work, but we kind of do that. Oh my God, we have to go for dinner. Like we actually have to, like just the 2 of us, no, you know, husband, no other staff, no whatever. We just need to go and hang out. So we did that for her birthday, by the way, last June. We're now a year ago already, more than a year. And so her birthday is June. Mine is August. And so I'd said to her, okay, well, we'll do dinner we'll get together for dinner for your birthday, and then we'll do mine, you know, a few weeks later in August. For some reason, and this happens all the time, maybe every 2nd or 3rd year, we do get together for her birthday. And it ends up actually being in July sometime. We never really get it around the right time. And then we do the exact same thing. Oh my God, let's do this again. Oh my God, okay, let's do it for your birthday. Never happens. And it's not like we lose touch. Again, she works for me, so it's not like it's not that we're estranged. It just never happened. And so we can have the best time laughing, because that's exactly what happened last year for her birthday. We were going to do dinner for like an hour and a half, I think was kind of, I sort of like putting a time limit on things before we get into it, just so that it's not like, oh, why did she end it quickly? Was she annoyed? Did I say something? It's like, no, we're going into this knowing that we're going to be out of there by like 7:30, 8 o'clock. We're calling it a night. We were there for 5 hours. We were there until about 11 o'clock because we were just laughing. It was just, let loose. And again, as much as a good time as we had, we've never done it again. It's never happened. So the same thing with this group from the lake. Oh my God, it was so... And we talked the next day, right? You messaged as a group chat the next day. That was so fun. Oh my God, laughing about this still. And oh my God, that was hilarious. 2 days later, I haven't heard from them. Nope. The group chat's like silent. And so I think that's also kind of a nice thing to do, right? You kind of get your fill, you have your kicks, and then, let's do it again in 5 years. Because none of us, I don't think, want to be like best of friends again. Right? Because we've all moved on. Everybody's life is kind of... So it wasn't about that. It wasn't about reconnecting permanently because, as I said, we're all on each other's Facebook. So we could just, message or whatever. And the last time that I had spoken with a couple of them was during Corona when, remember, everybody was kind of doing those video chats just to like keep in touch with people. And so I had done that with... with Heather and Nadine, two of the gals. One of them lives in Alberta now, and then Heather lives just outside of Winnipeg. I was in Los Angeles or in West Hollywood at the time, so it was kind of cool because she had obviously seen about the radio shows and things that I was doing, and so it was. But we've never had a conversation about all that kind of stuff, so it was sort of just nice to kind of have that conversation. And then just now, fast forward to this summer, to last weekend, that we and then it makes you think and go, why has it been so long? Right? No, there's no bad blood. No, we didn't have a falling out. It wasn't like that at all. It was just one of those things where we met when I was 13. We were working out at the store at the lake. That's how we all met as kids. And Rihanna and Chris, it's funny that it's Rihanna, Reanna, not like, remember Chris Brown and Rihanna? So no, they're brother and sister. It's Chris and then Reanna, not Rihanna like the singer. And they worked at the store. I worked at the store. That's how we met. And then we worked at the golf course for 3 summers. There was a golf course kind of by our cottages. And so I worked in the kitchen when I was 14, 15, and 16. Rihanna was a server she was 2 years older than me, so do the math. And then after your teenage years, you kind of get that like regular job. You're done high school, so you're working regularly in the summer, whatever it is. And we just kind of didn't go out to the lake anymore. I was then at 17 working at Red Lobster. That was when I was working with some of my former high school classmates. Rihanna got jobs doing other things, her brother Chris, and then everybody else kind of went their way. And so we lost touch. Chris was in a band, and we would go and watch some of his concerts. We would watch the performances, but we pretty much lost touch when I turned probably, I don't know that I was even 20. I think we just kind of, like the drinking age is 18. So when he was playing at bars, I remember I went to get my ID with them. And so they took me and we went and I got my ID to when I turned 18. And so, we went to a couple bars, when he was playing or when, we would just hang out. And then, probably about 20 years old is when we just sort of lost touch. I don't have any bad, it's not like I don't like so-and-so or whatever. You just drift apart, right? It happens in life with people. But again, all of us said, how has it been so long? Why haven't we done this? Well, because again, we're all caught up in our own lives, right? You have your kids, you have everything that's going on there. I had, my career that took me out of Canada for so long, and then, my husband and whatever. And I mean, the gay thing was never an issue. Everybody was totally fine with that. And so for them to, I think what was happening was, I didn't know any other gay teenagers at the time, so it wasn't like, but I think everybody else was in relationships also in their late teens and early 20s, and I never was, and so I think that they wanted me to be happy in a relationship. It just never happened. So it was kind of cool, or it is cool for them to go and see, like, oh my God, he's got, this great guy that he's been with for, 9 years, and he's the story of how they met, and blah, blah, blah. It's just really cute. So one thing that we did talk about was that we would get everybody together, not the kids, I don't like kids, but we would get the partners together because I said, I think that would be really fun to just have, the entire group then get together and just sort of do a mixed mingle. It wouldn't be as fun as our core group from like last weekend, but, to kind of put faces, names. No, what is it? Put a face to the name? Put a face to the name is what we would do now. right? Because I know Rihanna's husband's name is such and such. I know that Heather's husband is such and such. I know that her kid is such and like, I know that Garrett is Heather's husband, but I've just never met the guy. I've seen all the pictures of him, but I've never met Garrett. So, so we'll probably do that. Maybe in like 4 or 5 years. But I recommend doing it. I really do. It's this isn't even about, life is short and you never know. No, it was just kind of really, it was such a surprisingly fun, good time. Like if I had to, we're more than halfway through the year now, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. We're 7 months into the year. I would say that night was like the highlight of my year already. Because it was just so fun. I just thought, for it to be able to come together and for people to, whatever, I can come by, on Saturday, I got nothing to do. Well, it was only a few hours. It was just like, we were all looking forward to it. It was, oh my God, we're going to do this. And then just to be like pissing ourselves laughing about, oh my God, I remember this, or I don't remember this, but I remembered this. Oh, I remember it to be this way, or it happened this way. Well, we go to the tape and we got proof now. We can see exactly how it played out. And it was really funny. So I recommend doing that. If you had like a core group of people from whether it was college or high school days or whatever, or from a previous job even, reach out, get together. If you do have like old videos and shit like that, have everybody kind of come together. One of the things that we were going to do, which we didn't need to, was I was going to do, like when they have the housewives shows and they have those reunions and it's like, I wanted it to almost be like that, where it's like, tell me what you remember about the day that we taped the Blair Bitch Project out of the lake. We had my camcorder and it was like the middle of the night out of the lake and we were trying to do like a horror movie, just like when the Blair Witch Project, again, I'm talking to an older audience right now, but that was something where I said, what do you guys remember about when we did that? Because there was somebody sitting in the park, like on the swings. We actually thought it was somebody from our group when we were doing this, but it wasn't. It was just somebody who was sitting there. And it scared us. Like we went running because it was like, oh my God, this wasn't, and the person didn't talk or say anything. So when you're trying to do a horror film and all of a sudden you do run into like a body, it wasn't dead, but it was just like, we had a real life terror. We had a real life fear that we ended up just scaring ourselves in this moment. So we all had different memories of that instance. So it was really cool to relive that. So yeah, it's just, and something that I'd said last week on the show is I wouldn't want to be a kid again, but if I could stay in that certain time of my life, it would be around that time when I was like 16, 17 years old, because exactly what I was just saying. Everything that I've just described over the last like 20 minutes was the fun that we had. There was no drama in our group. There was no backstabbing. There was no talking about so-and-so or trash talking or this person doesn't like this person or what did you say about me? But we did not have that at all. Ever. 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 And I mean that. Really. Like I said, there was no bad blood. We just drifted apart. Whatever. That happens with everybody. And so that's a group that you just kind of go, we just clicked. We were all so different. We were all just very different. But that was when you would be able to be friends with people and it didn't matter, the bullshit that kids go through nowadays, right? And how it's dramatic and how it's, you're trying to look better than the other person or, they backstabbed you or no, I'm going to kick her ass. Never with our group. So I would go back to that time in my life where we were just carefree. We were just, we were just having a good time. And it's kind of sad, right? When you're kind of like, oh my God, we're all older now. They've got kids. I'm sure they regret it because kids suck. But, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm just beaming. And I know I should have wrapped up this segment like 5 minutes ago, but I'm still just living in that moment. We just had such a good time. It was really, really fun. If you've done something like that, I want to hear from you. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. Back on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Again, feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. The email address is live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. I will talk to you next week, everybody. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some